you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer unto God?
Yes, sir.
You may be seated.
Sir, would you state your name and employment for the record?
Yes, my name is Timothy Dickerson. I work for Pike County Emergency Management.
And what's your specific job title with the Pike County Emergency Management Agency?
I'm the director.
Hey, for those individuals maybe not familiar with what emergency management does, again, can you just give us a brief overview of what that is?
Sure. We handle events for the county that maybe would overwhelm local resources. So if there's a large tornado, a windstorm, or anything that would overwhelm services, then typically they activate the Emergency Management Agency, and I would help mitigate that response.
And prior to becoming the director of the Pike County Emergency Management Agency, were you in full-time law enforcement?
Yes.
And where would that have been?
I was employed with the Pike County Sheriff's Office.
What was your rank and your duties at the time, Mr. Dickerson?
I was a major at the time, and I was in charge of the road and administrative duties.
And what type of training and experience did you have at the time that enabled you to hold the position of major at the sheriff's office?
I had been at the sheriff's office since 2002, promoted to corporal in 06, sergeant in 09, and major in 2012. Had in-service training and plus the trainings that went on at the sheriff's office as well.
And I'm going to take you to April 22nd of 2016. What was your duty assignment at that time?
I was working day shift, and I had administrative duties.
What were your administrative duties, just for the record, for maybe those people not familiar with the sheriff's office?
Sure, I oversaw road deputies, so I would make sure when I showed up for work that they had turned in their reports, and if anybody called off, to make sure that their shift was covered. And I also reviewed files and crimes that had occurred the night before.
And Director Dickerson, you indicated you were working day shift at that time.
Yes.
And at any point that morning, were you dispatched, apprised, directed toward an incident that would have occurred on Union Hill Road?
Yes.
Would you tell us how you became aware of it?
Sure, I was in, my day was just starting. I was in my kitchen, and I was listening to my radio traffic, and I heard a deputy marking from, at that time, the crime scene, that he had located a code 16, which is a deceased person.
And once you heard that, what did you do?
We hear those types of calls. It's not unheard of. But what really caught my attention was that he had reiterated he said there was another code 16. So not knowing what was going on at that time, I went ahead and headed out to the scene.
Hey, how long did it take you to get out there?
If I was to guess, I would say probably 30 minutes or so.
What route did you take? Obviously, you don't have to, because you're still a peace officer, you don't have to put your home address on the record, but what route did you take to get out there?
I would have took State Route 32 west to the top of Union Hill and turned left onto Union Hill.
Hey, once you turned left on Union Hill, did you encounter any other officers, or were any other officers following you in a convoy or anything like that?
I don't recall any officers following me, but I was diverted from the original crime scene to what was later learned to be another crime scene by an officer.
How were you diverted there?
Stopped on my way to the other crime scene and told we had to go back to another one.
Hey, and who was it that stopped you and had you go back?
I believe it was Major Evans.
And would that be the same Major Evans, the sheriff now?
Yes.
Just for the record. Okay. Once you were diverted back to another residence, What did you specifically do?
Well, I exited my vehicle, went into the home. I then turned right, went into a room, and found a deceased male. He was in the bed. Went from there out through the, I guess would be the living room, the kitchen area, to another room where a deceased female was located, and then made a right, or would have been to this direction, the right direction, and found a third deceased female.
Can you recall if there were any other officers in there with you at that time, Director Dickerson?
I remember an officer being in the doorway as I turned right. There was a doorway on my left.
And can you recall their identity?
I do not remember who that was.
And obviously, it's been 6.5 years ago, at least.
Yes.
You mean you found the 3 deceased individuals in there. Once you'd seen that, what did you do?
Well, one thing that happened was I noticed there was a baby in the bed in that bedroom, and what I recall was there was either I made a noise or there was a noise because the baby's arms came up, and I hollered for them to get a medic, and then the medic came in and he took the baby, and then we went back out to the ambulance.
And was anyone, when you came in to remove the baby, was anyone else with you that you can recall other than the EMT?
I don't remember anybody being with me.
And do you recall if any of the other officers there on the scene indicated a baby crying? If you can recall.
I don't recall.
If you would, I think you indicated it was a Daryl Hart that went in with you to remove the baby.
Yes, Daryl was the EMT.
I'm going to start off, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, Director Dickerson. You indicated you'd found a male subject that deceased in one of the bedrooms.
Yes.
Would you describe him for me?
Yeah, as I recall, he was laying on his side, face down, pointed that way, and he had been shot in the back of the head.
And just for the record, Director Dickerson, have you encountered gunshot wounds during your training experience over the years?
Yes,
Okay. Were you able to identify these as gunshot wounds?
yes.
And once you encountered, at any point, were you able to learn the identity of the male subject that you'd found deceased there?
Yes, later I was advised that it was Christopher Jr.
And you indicated you'd found a second female subject in another bedroom. Would you tell us how you found her and what happened then?
As I entered the room, she was also in bed, and that would have been Dana.
If you can recall, were there any pillows, comforters, blankets, sheets, anything over her?
I believe a blanket.
Did you yourself remove any of the blankets, look under them, anything like that?
I did not.
Okay. Did anyone else in your presence do that, or do you know if anyone did?
Someone prior to me would have, because her face was uncovered.
Okay. And you'd indicated that, again, you found the baby in the back bedroom, and there was a young female subject deceased at that time there too.
Yes.
And did you ever learn her identity?
Yes, it was Hannah May.
And would you describe any injuries that you would have seen on her at the time?
Yeah, she appeared to have been shot as well in the front.
What condition was the little baby in?
The baby was laying next to Hannah, right up against her stomach area and her breast.
Okay, not to, you sound really morbid or anything like that, was there any evidence that she may have been breastfeeding, anything like that?
Her breast was exposed and the baby was right there, so it could be.
And how, could you give us an approximate age of the little baby if you could, Director Dickerson?
I learned later that the baby was 3 days old. It was very, very tiny.
Yeah, what was the baby's condition?
From what I remember, I just remember the diaper having blood on it, but alive.
And you indicated EMT Daryl Hart had moved the baby for you. Tell us how that happened.
Well, I motioned for a medic to come in, and then Daryl Hart took the baby. He brought it up close to him, and then we both went out the house the same way we came in.
And can you recall which squad or company or corporation Daryl Hart would have worked for at the time?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Did you know him or work with him before then, if you can recall?
Yes.
Okay. And what was going through your mind at this time when you encountered the deceased and the baby in there?
Well, it was a traumatic scene, and a large scene. When I discovered that the baby was alive, I was very thankful for that.
Did you have a fear that the baby may not have been alive?
Yes.
And once Daryl Hart had removed the baby, do you know what happened with it?
The baby was placed in the ambulance, and I don't know where they went from there.
Did you encounter any other people at the scene at 3122?
Officers, and when I first arrived, later learned it was, I believe, James Manley, I believe was his name.
And did you have any discussions with him, Director Dickerson?
No.
Did you have any discussions with any other civilians that day?
Not that I recall.
Okay. I want to show you a diagram. I'm going to show you an overhead view here, just for the record. This is State's Exhibit C-434. And if you would, come on out here and watch your head on that thing. Tell us what we're looking at here.
This is Dana's home.
And can you see on there the door you used to make into the residence?
I can't see anyone else.
I don't see the foliage up. Okay, that's a garage right there. Did you yourself search that garage?
No.
Let's just stay up here a second. I'm having to go to that diagram as well. This is State's Exhibit number C-433, Mr. Dickerson. Does the general layout of that look familiar to you?
Yes.
Basically, tell us what we're looking at here.
This would be Dana's, the schematic for home. This is the room where Christopher Jr. was located. This is the room where Dana was located. And this is the room where Ian was located.
When you went into the residence, assuming you turned right first, Christopher was taken.
Yes.
Can you, if you can recall, can you show us the rest of your path through the residence?
Sure. I would have exited here, came through here, and then into Dana's room, and then into Ian's.
Would you have a seat, please? Prior to finding the little baby, how long would you say you'd been inside that residence?
A few minutes.
Once you'd exited the residence with the little baby, what's the next thing you did?
I was outside and was later met on the scene by the sheriff.
Okay. Hey, would that have been Charlie Reeder?
Yes.
Hey, what did you do when the sheriff arrived on the scene?
I got into his vehicle and began briefing him on what I knew at that time.
And what happened after that?
The day, it just evolved. I don't remember specific things throughout the day. I do remember that the sheriff had mentioned James. He needed to be interviewed. So that someone would have been told to interview James.
Would you have handled that, or would you have directed another investigator or deputy to do that?
Right, that would have been someone else who done that.
At any time, was there ever a discussion or a meeting to determine whether or not to call BCI in?
Yes.
Were you involved in that?
That is one of those things that was an automatic. The sheriff would have called dispatch to notify BCI immediately.
Okay. And obviously, BCI was called in, were they not?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of calling BCI in on this case?
Just the severity and the size of the crime. We knew that we were going to need assistance.
Was there a decision made to turn the whole investigation over to BCI?
There was.
Were you involved in that?
I may have been involved in the discussion, but ultimately the sheriff decided to turn the investigation over to BCI.
Hey, were you involved in that investigation?
I was later assigned to BCI to help them while they were in the county, yes.
Okay. Were there any other officers assigned as well?
Yes.
And who would they have been?
Major Al Lewis.
Okay. So your purpose then was to assist BCI because you knew the area, Major Lewis knew the area, you knew people who lived around here, where, say, an agent who might be from 2 counties away may not know people. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Did you ever go on that day into any of the other scenes other than the one at 3122 Union Hill Road?
No.
And how long were you in on Union Hill Road that day dealing with all 3 scenes?
I can't give you an exact time how long I was there, but I was there for a while, and the sheriff, we would have been in the same spot for a while.
And were you ever involved that day in obtaining any search warrants?
I was not.
Or would that have been assigned to someone else?
That would have been assigned to someone else.
Okay. And can you recall how long you were out there that day, evening or into the night, anything like that?
Well, I know as the day progressed, we moved from there to a church across 32, where some gatherers, where people were gathering.
Things here. This will sound like a strange question, but may come into play later. What type of footwear were you wearing that day?
I would have been wearing what the department had issued me.
Was it any particular brand or type of boot, if you can recall, sir?
I don't recall the brand name, black style.
Okay. I think if I indicated Vibram boots, would that ring a bell?
Yeah, I believe that's what I told BCI, now that he reminded me.
And did you, Sheriff Reeder, Major Evans, or anyone else solicit help from any other law enforcement agencies around Ohio?
There were numerous agencies and officers that responded that day. And I recall officers as, calling from as far away as Ottawa County in northern Ohio, but there were a lot of officers and agencies and sheriffs that reached out to offer help.
And did they in fact offer help and send officers to assist you at the time?
Yes.
have you look at some pictures, Director Dickerson. Again, I'll warn everybody in advance that some of these will be prohibited. To draw your attention to State's Exhibit C4, it'll pop up on your monitor there. And the digital image is 7642, and it's a view of the outside of 3122. Just for the record, will you tell us what that is, sir?
Yes, that is the outside of Dana's residence.
We're going to move on to C52 in digital file 7690. And tell us what that is, please.
It's a different view from the same residence.
And are you able to tell us if it's visible on there or visible, how you got into the residence?
The stairwell there on the porch.
I think you indicate that. Where did you park when you pulled up to this scene?
I parked in the roadway.
Okay. Did you take the sidewalk, the driveway, or did you just walk straight through the yard?
As I recall, I went through the yard.
Okay. I'm going to pull up C94, digital number 7733, Mr. Wilson. Just tell us what that is.
That would be the front door to Dana's residence.
Actually, the next pictures, pretty much all the rest of the pictures I'm going to have are going to be of deceased victims. So just so everybody knows. Move to, are we cleared? Okay, is it okay? Mr. Dickerson, I want to bring your attention to State's Exhibit C135, digital number 7774. Tell us what we're looking at, please.
That would be Christopher Jr.
I'm going to move on to Exhibit C137, digital number 7776. Would you identify that, please?
Yeah, Christopher Jr., different photo.
And Exhibit C145, digital number 7784. And can you describe what we're looking at there?
That is the back of Christopher Jr.'s head.
And Mr. Dickerson, you'd indicated you were familiar with gunshot wounds through your training and experience.
Yes.
And can you identify any on Chris Rhoden Jr. there?
The wounds are consistent with gunshot wounds in my prior experiences.
Okay. And just for the record, do you still hold any police commissions anywhere or any other appointments at any law enforcement agencies?
Right, I'm still commissioned at the Pike County Sheriff's Office as a special deputy.
I'm going to move on to State's Exhibit C207. And that'll be digital file number 7846. Tell us what we're looking at here, Mr. Dickerson.
That would be Dana.
And moving on to State's Exhibit C214. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Wilson, that number is 7853. Tell us what we're looking at here, please.
That was Dana, different photo.
Okay. And does that depict any gunshot wounds, if you can tell?
There appeared to be a gunshot wound to the face, yes.
Going to move on to the last bedroom. I want to call up State's Exhibit C237, digital number 7876. And would you tell us what this picture depicts, Mr. Dickerson?
Yes, it's Hannah in her bedroom.
I'm going to move on to C241, digital number 7880. And would you identify this for us, please?
All right, it's Hannah in her bedroom, different photo.
And does it depict the baby in there at the time?
No.
Going to move on to State's Exhibit C247, digital number 7887. And tell us what we're looking at here.
That's Hannah in her bed, a different photo.
And where would the little baby have been?
The baby was just below her right breast and against the stomach area.
If you don't want it, you're going to hit it. Right ahead. Mr. Dickerson, Mr. Wilson's going to blow that picture up for us.
We have objection. We have a continuing objection to these photos being projected on the screen.
Your Honor, we have a specific reason for this. What are we looking at right there, Mr. Dickerson?
Well, state what's your reason?
Yeah, we intend to have him take a look to show a pacifier right there. That's consistent with the baby being there.
All right, I'll overrule the objection.
Mr. Dickerson, if you would, what are we looking at right there?
This is a picture of Hannah in her bed, her stomach here, and a baby pacifier there.
And we're going to move on to State's Exhibit C253. That'll be digital file number 7893. Just tell us what we're looking at there, Mr. Dickerson.
It's Hannah in her bed, different photo.
Take that down. Again, for purposes of venue, what county and state is 3122 Union Hill Road in?
It's in Pike County, Ohio.
About 4077 Union Hill Road,
It's Pike County, Ohio.
4199 Union Hill Road.
Pike County, Ohio.
Your Honor, I have no further questions for Director Dickerson at this time.
Defense may cross-examine.
Mr. Dickerson, can you tell me what your current occupation is?
Yes, sir. I'm the Director of Emergency Management for Pike County, Ohio.
All right, and can you tell me again briefly, what do you do? Or what's the responsibility of that office?
Well, I oversee emergency management for Pike County. If there's a disaster or anything that would overwhelm the county resources, like the fire department, EMS, law enforcement, then they would funnel requests through my agency, and I would be the liaison to the state of Ohio to fill that request.
And I believe you told us that your position is director, is that right?
Yes.
I would imagine as the director of the Pike County Emergency Management System, it's important for you to know the boundaries of Pike County, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Now, you indicated that you're familiar with where 3122 Union Hill Road is at, right?
Yes.
And who lived there?
Dana?
Okay, Dana. And you would agree with me that Pike County actually adjoins Scioto County, right?
Yes,
And are you aware that the county line between Scioto and Pike goes right down the middle of Union Hill Road?
yes,
All right. And actually, 3122 Union Hill Road is in Scioto County. You would agree with that?
no,
So you just agreed with me that the county line goes down the middle of Union Hill Road, right?
I am not disagreeing that it goes down through there. What I know from my experience is that the residence lies in Pike County.
Tell me, what experience is that you base that on?
The conversation that was had between the sheriff of Adams County and the sheriff of Pike County on the day of the homicides.
So I ask you what your position is because I'm relying upon your experience as the director of the Pike County Emergency Management System. Do you know from that position where the boundary lines are?
I know from my position that I have been told in the past that the boundary is in Pike County.
And have you independently looked into that to verify that for yourself?
I have not had any occasion to have to verify
Thank you.
that.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Just briefly, again, Director Dickerson, you'd indicated that you're privy to a conversation between Sheriff Kimmy Rogers and Sheriff Charlie Reeder as far as the location of 3122.
Yes.
And what was decided between during the conversation between two sheriffs, yourself, and other officers?
That the crime scene was in Pike County.
No further questions.
Any further cross?
Sir, tell me, are you aware if 3122 is logged in the public records for Pike County as a Pike County residence?
What I'm aware of is the conversation that we had that day.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you again. I'm going to talk about government records for Pike County. Are you aware whether it's in the Pike County government records?
I'm gonna ask and answer. He said the only way he's aware of it is for conversation.
Well, I'm going to let him, do you need to hear the question?
Yes,
again?
please.
Are you aware from Pike County government records whether 3122 Union Hill Road is in Pike County?
I'm aware of what I knew at the time, that Pike,
So I'm
the
going to take that
residents.
as a no. Right?
Objection, Your Honor, that's badgering.
Well,
I'm
I don't
seeking
think
clarification.
he gave a direct response to the question asked.
So it's just based on a conversation that you overheard, if I understood that correctly?
Well, there were conversations in that day and follow-up conversations that it was decided that, based on conversation, that it was in Pike County.
Thank you. No further questions.
Any further questions from the
We have no
state?
further questions for Director Dickerson, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Does the state have another witness to call right now, or do you wish to have a break before in between?
We probably need to take a break, Your Honor. We need to make a check and make sure after the witness is here.
So we'll take a 15-minute break. It's now 2:40, basically. So 2:55, by 2:55, the jury should be at the jury room. You'll be brought up from there by court personnel. Do not discuss the case among yourselves with anyone else. Do not permit the case to be discussed with you in your presence. Do not formulate or express an opinion concerning the case. Do not do any research concerning the case. Do not read, view, or listen to any reports or accounts concerning the case, and have no contact with any participants in the case. With that, we are in recess for 15 minutes. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer unto God?
Yes, sir.
You may be seated.
All right.
State and examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nice loud voice. Can you tell everyone your name, and can you spell your name for the court report, your
Yes,
last
sir.
name for the court report?
Yes, sir. My name is Gary Michael Mosley. My last name is spelled M-O-S-L-E-Y.
Now, sir, where do you currently work?
I currently am self-employed. I live out in Pike County, Fairfield County line right there in Stoutsville. I own a business called Ready Set List. I do real estate.
All right. In your life, have you been involved in law enforcement?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. And tell us, in Ohio, how do you become a law enforcement officer?
It is a long process of an academy. I'm not sure the hours now, but it was 6 months when I went, 6 to 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. Then you have to take physical test, written test, strategy test. There's a lot of training that is involved. And then afterwards, once you pass your physical test and requirements, you have to take a state test. And it consists of just any ordinances, the ORC, that you have to answer the questions within 2 hours. I think I'm not 100% on the amount of questions. I apologize to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while since I've taken it.
Okay. And when did you actually go through that initial training to become a law enforcement officer?
I initially signed up in 2008. I graduated and everything and been in law enforcement ever since in 2009.
Okay. And where did you go to become certified?
I went to SOPTI, Southern Ohio Police Institute. It's in Ross County.
Did you successfully complete all the classes you were required to take?
Yes, sir.
And did you successfully complete the certification course and get your peace officer training certification?
Yes, sir.
Okay. After you obtained that certification, did you begin working in law enforcement?
Yes, sir. I was in Chesapeake, Ohio.
Okay. And where is that? What county is that in?
That is in Lawrence County, right across from Huntington, West Virginia. It is almost right, it's right there, right across. I'm trying to think of the bridge. It's 29th Street Bridge right there by the hospital in West Virginia.
Okay. And what did you do for Chesapeake?
I was only there for a short time, sir. I started out, that was my cutting my teeth in, I guess you could say. I started out as a patrolman, and within like 4 or 5 months, it was a very small department. I learned just the roads and stuff like that. I was promoted to sergeant, and then right after that, I resigned and went to the Sheriff's Department in Lawrence County.
Okay. And when you went to the Sheriff's Department in Lawrence County, what did you do for the Lawrence County Sheriff's Office?
Sir, I was initially a jailer for the first year,
Okay.
which is required by the union in Lawrence County.
Okay.
And then
Let me jump in real quick.
Go ahead.
As a jailer, what do you do? What were your duties?
My duties was to oversee the jail, the inmates, process them in, process them out, bring them to court, take them to court, transport them from anywhere that they need to go in the state, even out of state. I've went and picked a woman up in Florida. I do anything that involved the jail at that time.
And as a entry-level law enforcement officer, is that kind of a good way to cut your teeth, kind of learn the process, get to know people, interact
In my
with people?
opinion, yes. I believe every officer on the streets should absolutely, that works for the county anyway, I rephrase that. I believe that every officer that works for a county should absolutely mandatory do 1 year in jail, in the jail.
Okay. And eventually, obviously, you didn't go into law enforcement, be a corrections officer.
Correct.
Although it's a good place to start, did you eventually want to get out on the street, and were you able to do that?
Yes, once I learned, because believe it or not, the jail's almost like a revolving door, is why I said that everyone should do it, because you know who you're going to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And when you run into this guy, you don't have any surprises, so, or female, no surprises. So I started to get out on the road. I started working extra duties. They would pull me from the jail and put me on the road when they were a man down. So yes, I did work the road in Lawrence County also.
Okay. So eventually, when you make it out to the road, what were your duties there in Lawrence County?
Deputy sheriff, you respond to calls. It's a large county, not a large department, so we were all over the place.
Okay. Eventually, did you move on from Lawrence County
Yes.
to somewhere else? Where'd you go next?
Yes, I did, sir. I actually, due to personal circumstances, I got divorced in 2012. My ex-wife moved back up to the Pickerington, Columbus area, so I followed her because of my 2 children, and I kind of took a little break. Now, I held a commission with Lawrence County after my employment was there. They kept me on so my certification wouldn't run out. Right after that, I turned my certification in, and I came to Piketon in, I believe, 2015, if my memory serves me correct, 2015 or beginning of 2016. I can't really remember.
So you come to Piketon, and what do you do for Piketon?
I was a patrolman.
All right. And tell us a little bit about that experience. What was your job as a patrolman for the Piketon Police Department? Is that a big department?
It's a decent little department. I mean, I've been to Waverly to help. I've been out in the county to help. But yeah, Piketon it's an interesting county or interesting area. You got 23 that runs through there, so there's always something going on somewhere. And it's a really nice place to work up there.
What were your duties there for Piketon?
Patrol, do traffic control, just respond to calls.
Okay. Now, what were you full-time or part-time?
I was full-time, sir.
Okay. And what shift did you work? Do you remember?
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I worked all of them. Whenever they needed me, I was right there to help.
Now, typically when you're working for the Piketon Police Department, are you running as a single unit car or a double unit car? And explain what that means.
A single unit car is one officer per car. A double unit is you have a B rider or an A drives B unit with you, which is an assisted unit. I've done both in Piketon. Now, typically it would be just a single unit on the streets of Piketon for the simple fact of it's a smaller department as a sheriff's department or a city. So we typically would just run one unit at a time, but sometimes we would have overlapping units.
Now, would there be times when you were running as a single unit that you would need backup
Oh, yes.
on a call?
Oh, yes, several times.
So when you were at the Piketon Police Department, who would back you up from time
Once
to time?
again, sir, it's most typically the sheriff's department, depending on what's going on. I've had Waverly back me up, and vice versa.
And would you do the same for their units that were running as single cars, or
Yes,
when
sir.
they needed backup?
Yes, sir. I've responded down to Walmart and Waverly for drug stops. I've responded with this. I've helped Ohio State Patrol coming through here. I've backed Pike County up several times. They've backed me up several times. It's a really good working community as far as law enforcement goes.
I want to take you back to April of 2016, specifically April 22nd, 2016. Were you working for the Piketon Police Department on that day?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember what shift you were working or what time you came into work?
Yes,
that
sir.
day?
My shift was supposed to be 7 a.m. to, I was going to use military time, 3 p.m.
Okay. So talk about that. You come in, how's your day start, and what do you do when you come in for that 7A shift?
My typical day starts is I've always drive my area. I always do. I mean, it's typically something, if something happens, I don't do it. I just want my presence to be known. I drive out into some of the apartment complexes, the trailer parks, around the the nicer hill areas. I would drive down in the lower hill areas. And I drive all of it. That way everyone knows that there is an officer on scene. And I typically try to do it once an hour if I'm not held up on something or I'm not preoccupied with something else. That way my presence is always known that there is an officer on duty.
Now, at some point that morning, do you become aware of a dispatch or something going on out in the Union Hill Road area of the county?
Yes, sir. I'm going off my memory here, and that was a long time ago. I'm believing it was around 7:30-ish in that area somewhere because I just drove the upper hill and I came back down and I was sitting along 23.
Okay. Do you remember the nature of that dispatch?
Yes, there was, I believe it was a shot call. Someone had been shot, and I can't remember the exact pronunciation of it, what they called out, but there was a single officer heading that way that day, and I asked if I should go, and they said yes.
Okay. And when you say a single officer, was that a deputy from the Pike County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir. Yes, it was Officer Chandler, or Deputy Chandler, sorry.
And back at that time frame, did the Pike County Sheriff's Office dispatch for Piketon PD?
Yes, sir, they still do.
Okay.
Yes.
And again, you were able to listen and monitor that radio.
Yes, sir.
When you heard the nature of that call or that something was going on, did you ask if you needed to go out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what happened next?
They told me absolutely they need anyone that can help, and I proceeded to follow Chief Dickerson at the time.
Okay. So which way did you go to get out to the Union Hill area?
We went down 32 towards, or 23 towards, down 23, 32 area. I'm sorry,
Okay.
got on 32 there, I apologize.
Did you get on 32 and head west at that point?
Yes, sir, yes.
And did you take that out to the Union Hill area?
Yes, sir.
Can you go ahead and turn the TV on? I'm tell you what I'm gonna do.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give this to you. Your Honor, can the witness come down from the
Yes.
stand? I'm gonna have you.
Thank you, sir.
Stand careful there. Just get it back up, right there. I'm gonna project some images on the screen and have you kind of walk the jury through what we're doing. Give me 1 second. All right. I put on the screen what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit M3. I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit M3. M3 that I have on my hand, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay. And do you recognize that area?
Yes, I do.
And we'll have to keep talking loud.
That's fine.
Can you tell the jury what area of the county that is, and did you find yourself in that area
Yes.
the morning of April 22nd?
Yes, I did, sir. We were approaching from this angle, coming down.
Okay. And if you could, walk the jury, well, as you're on your way out there, are you with some other law enforcement?
Yes, sir. I was behind another unit, which I believe was Deputy Music. Then I was behind Chief Deputy Dickerson at the time.
Okay. And how are you guys going? You guys lighting sirens?
Yes, sir. I could just tell you we wasn't moving slow.
Okay. So when you get out to the Union Hill area, walk the jury through how you get on Union Hill and the route that you took.
Okay, we come down this way here from the from my left to the right. There's a church up here. We turned left onto Union Hill, and we circled all the way down.
Okay. Can you give me M4? I'm showing you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit M4. M4 that you have in your hands, that same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
And do you recognize that area?
Yes, I do, sir.
Okay.
We approached, once we turn off, we come up this way from the last picture. We come up here, and there's a real hard right, sharp turn, and vice versa. It comes up this way, and we head on out.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit M5. M5 you have in your hand, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, can you tell the jury, do you recognize that area?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and walk us through your actions out in that area on that day.
So we were approaching, we come this way, and we were driving out up towards that way right there, up this way.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit M6. The M6 that you have in your hand, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recognize that area?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there, please?
Okay, this once Hill, Union Hill, it goes up, and we are heading up the road just a little ways from there.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit M7. M7 that you have in your hands, that's up on the screen.
Yes, it is.
Can you tell the jury what that is, please?
This is the house that I was initially flagged down to, unaware of anything that was going on up the road at that time.
We're going to leave M7 out. Take a picture from you.
Sir.
State's Exhibits M3 through M7. They truly accurately depict the way those roads looked on April 22nd, 2016.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to display for the jury what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibits C434. Okay, and we still have State's Exhibit M7 up on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, again, do you recognize the picture that's depicted in
Yes,
State's
sir.
Exhibit C434?
Yes, sir. That is the front of the house that we're looking at from the backside here. That would be the front of the house.
Okay. If you could, with your pointer, walk the jury through, as you came down that area of Union Hill Road, did something draw your attention? And if you can, walk the jury through what it is that grabbed your attention.
Yes, sir. There was, as we approached, the other two deputies was a little bit ahead of me because they knew the roads better. So as I come out to right about in this general area, to this general area, there was people that I could see through like this tree line, kind of like running towards the road. So, and when they were running, they were waving like this, hollering and waving. And I looked up and I was like, hey, they're trying to flag us down. So, and I had a good idea what had happened to the one house up the road. So I marked up and I told Deputy Dickerson, I said, Chief, there's flagging me down. I'm going to stop and see if everything's okay there. And he said, copy. As I pulled in, they were there and they were telling me that they could hear a baby crying and from the house.
Okay. And you said you had a pretty good idea of what had been going on at these other scenes. Were you getting updates or listening to the radio as you were driving out there?
Yes, sir. I can't honestly tell you what was said, but yes, they were up. Everything is updated by dispatch from officers talking also. So dispatch is stating things that they're being told, and then we also have officer communication between officer to officer on our radios also.
Okay. And as you said, they flagged you down. They flagged you down, and they tell you that there's a baby crying inside.
Yes, sir.
What was their emotional state? How did they appear?
Panicked.
Okay.
Panicked. Very, very panicked.
Shortly after you pulled into that driveway, did a Pike County deputy pull in and join you?
Yes, sir. It was Deputy Ball.
Okay. And did you touch base with Deputy Ball and start to formulate a plan for what you were going to do at that residence?
Yeah, at the time, I mean, you know, the plan happened very quickly, obviously, because it was, hey, I informed him what was told. He said, let's go check it out. And that's when we were parked in this general area, and we walked up to the front of the house right there.
Okay. If you could, just walk around to this, because I'm going to move you over here anyway.
We pulled in, like I said,
You guys stand over this side.
we pulled into this side, this area right here. The family, I had met the family like in this general area. And when I pulled in here, Deputy Ball came, and we pulled in here. As we got out of the car, this is how fast the plane formed from the walk at a heavy, fairly fast pace from here to there. So we didn't have maybe 150 feet to come up with a plane at that time.
I'm going to stay put right where you're at.
Sir.
All right, and I'm going to put up that board, a new board, that's marked for identification purposes, case exhibit C433. Don't comment on it yet. I'm going to answer some questions about it here in a second. Just kind of want you to look at it, familiarize yourself with it. And Mr. Junk, if you could give me State's Exhibit C94. I'm going to put in front of you what's been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit C94. State's Exhibit C94, the image that you have in your hand, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, and do you recognize that area of that residence?
Yes, I do, sir. In front of the house.
Okay, so walk us through, you and Deputy Ball approached this front door, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And walk us through what the plan is. What are you going up to that house for? What are you going to do?
We're there to investigate. I mean, the way people were acting outside, they're frantic. They could hear a baby crying, and obviously the door was, I can't remember 100%. I know it was unlocked. I can't remember if it was shut or cracked at that time. I apologize. It just happened so fast. Us making entry. We were there to investigate. I mean, the family was acting frantic.
Okay, and you say you can't remember if it was cracked or just barely latched. Was it wide open like?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, I opened the door personally.
Okay, so walk us through. One of the first things you do when you come into a scene like this, do you need to secure that scene to make sure it's safe for you and other officers and that nobody's in danger in there?
Yes, sir, 100%. That's safety is the first priority of everything.
Okay, so walk us through. When you get on that porch, what are you doing? Do you have your gun drawn? Do you have what's the plan for going in and clearing this place?
Yes, sir, guns were out. We had it planned. Once again, we had no idea the house was designed the way it was until we got in. So our plan was just to go in and set up a security base once we make entry and go from there and secure it bit by bit.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to have you go to State's Exhibit C433. If you could, do you recognize the diagram that's marked as State's Exhibit 433? C433.
Yes, sir.
Okay, walk us through when you cleared that place. Where'd you go in at, and what was your first move when you got in there?
Once again, there's two of us luckily. As we open the door here, the door swings inward to the right. I instantly stepped right here. As I was standing here, I could see a line of sight from here to this wall. So as I came in, you do what's called a pie graph cut. I'm an active shooter instructor, and I was taught that. So when you come, I spin from this wall to this wall, constantly looking to see if there's any threats in this room, while Deputy Ball is standing facing this way.
Okay, let's clear that up a little bit. When you say you spin, are you scanning or are you actually moving?
I'm
Okay.
scanning.
So-
I'm not spinning in circles. I'm scanning the room.
Okay, so how far in do you go in that initial entry? Do you remember?
Enough for the ball to get in, sir.
Okay. And then what move does Deputy Ball make?
Now that I've got this area here secure, Deputy Ball enters this area right here.
Okay. And when he enters that area to the right, what do you do?
I backpedal, keeping my line of sight all the way to here, and backpedal because he's gonna check this area here, the bathroom area. I backpedal to make sure he's safe here, so I stand right here at this wall where I can see to this corner, and I can see all of this straight across to this room, this hallway here.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit C95. Give me that. C95 that you have in your hand. Is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, sir, it is.
And can you tell the jury, again, what they're looking at and where in that diagram that picture's depicted?
So what you're looking at is this little breezeway right here and the bathroom door right here. Okay, so when I was here, Ball was standing right here. He already cleared this little area by just, it's a bathroom. It's not like it's a huge room. So he cleared this little area, just looked around. He came out. That's when he came in here. As he came in, he cut straight across. That is what you do. You cut across the room that way there. If there's anybody here, he's already cleared this section of it by doing the pie cut. I backpedaled to here. Now, I lose sight of him here if I stay here, so I need to keep sight on him. So I put myself in a tactical position here, where if something happens to him, I can defend him, and I can also watch our back.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit C105. C105 that you have in front of you. Is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, and can you tell us where that picture is depicted in the diagram and what it's showing?
This picture is a picture of Chris's room, this room right here. So someone had to be standing right in this area, maybe back, about right almost parallel to the bathroom door, which would be right here, to take that picture straight in.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit C106. And where is that?
That is this bathroom right here, sir.
Okay. And as you went into that area of the residence that day, again, did you, other than the victim, did you clear it of any suspects or any threats to you at that point?
At this point, sir, all we had done was secure this, not even secured, but we knew nothing was in this area, and we secured this area, all total.
I'm going to show you, and this is an image of probably that shouldn't be. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states Exhibit C114. States Exhibit C114 that you have in front of you. Is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and can you tell us where we're looking in that picture?
You're standing right here. This is a photo of the bed.
Okay, and again, does that truly and accurately depict the way you saw that area of that house on the morning of April 22nd,
Yes, sir.
2016? I'm going to show, again, this is another one that shouldn't be, the next two shouldn't be projected. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as for identification purposes. States Exhibit C122. C122 that you have in your hand, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
And if you could, tell us where that picture is taken from and what it's showing.
This picture was probably taken right in this general area of bedroom where Chris's room was at, and they're facing the wall right here, and he's laying right there, deceased.
Okay, and again, does that truly and accurately depict the way that area looked on that
Yes,
day?
sir. Absolutely.
Okay, at some point after you had cleared that bedroom, did you come back out and start to clear the rest of the house?
Yes, we did, sir.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. States Exhibit C100. States Exhibit C100 that you have in your hand. Is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
And can you tell the jury what they're looking at and where that's depicted from?
This is going to be roughly in this general area of the picture. So I believe the yeah, it's in this general area because there's a couch right here, obviously, and they're taking a picture of where the refrigerator is at, was right in this general area.
Okay. And walk us through the clearing that you did in that room or in that area of the house that day.
Okay, so that day, myself and Adam, this was a very difficult house to clear because they had the add-ons and the doorways was just circular, so you never knew what was what. So when we approached this area right here, there was a blanket that separated this room from this room. And I believe there was a blanket on this one too. I cannot remember 100% on that, but I know there was a doorway right here. So I was standing here watching this door. Deputy Ball opened this door, did a quick sweep in it, and we stood here. At this point, we knew this door was shut. We didn't know what was on the other side of this wall or this blanket. So we took that blanket down, and once we did, I rolled this way just to cover this area. I seen the door, and he kind of covered this whole area right here. So this door here was now secure. This was secure, and we knew this was secure. This, and the rest of the house was not yet at the time secure, sir.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. The state's exhibit C-262. That's 262 to go on the screen. The 262 that I put in front of you, does that image, what you have in front of you, is the same image that's up on the screen?
It is, yes.
Okay, and can you tell us what we're looking at there?
This picture was taken from the doorway, probably right about this area right here. Taking a picture of there was a blanket, as my memory serves me correct now. There's that black blanket right here in the corner by the door. That was up over top of that door with that entryway. As we walked into the bathroom door, was like right somewhere in that area. So that's the rear door right there in the corner. The big windows are here and here.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, state's exhibit C-260. The state's exhibit C-260 that you have in front of you, is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, it is, sir.
And can you tell the jury what they're looking at, what part of the house they're looking at right there?
So this has been taken from right in this general area, facing the opposite way we came in. Here, the refrigerator, you can see the refrigerator, the back of the refrigerator, it's right along the wall here. And you can see the blanket that we've had to take down to enter that room.
And when you say take down,
It was pinned up.
Okay.
It was just like with a thumbtack held up, and when we moved it, it fell.
okay. And again, it's still hanging there, did it just fall to the side?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
when I went to move the blanket and cut in this way, as I pulled it out away from the wall, it fell.
Okay. It didn't hit the floor, you later pick it up and
No,
pin it
no,
back
no,
up?
sir. It's right like that.
Okay.
Never touched that floor.
Okay. Walk us through, once you've cleared and secured that room, what's your next move?
At this point, we're now here. We bottlenecked ourselves here. We could hear a baby crying from this area.
Okay.
So we, once again, we walked backwards to here, we made sure this was secure, and called in Chief Deputy Dickerson.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states exhibit C-233. States exhibit C-233 that you have in your hand. Is that the same image that's up on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it's kind of dark. Can you tell the jury what they're looking at there and where that picture's taken from?
Yes, so you were roughly right here, looking in, and this would have been one of the topless beds.
Okay. And when you got there, you said you could hear a baby crying. Is that correct? What did you do when you got to that point?
Sir, we said we had to clear the area to make sure there's no more hostile threats because we knew at that time we had to have the EMTs come in because of the child. So at that point, we just swept the area, make sure there was no harmful entities or anything that could hurt the person that was coming in was unarmed.
Okay.
At that point, we stayed fast right here. We had Chief Deputy Deputy Dickerson come in, along with 2 EMTs to retrieve the baby.
Okay. And were they able to successfully retrieve that baby and take that baby out?
Yes, sir. We stood right there, made sure everything was secure, and we watched the infection.
Okay. After that baby was removed, where did you go next?
At that point, sir, as Deputy Dickerson was leaving, there was a basement. The basement was right here. And I didn't have a flashlight because I was working 7 to 3 in the morning. So I asked him for his flashlight when I was in the car. So he gave me his flashlight, and Deputy Ball stood here while I entered the basement. And I did a quick sweep. The basement was probably roughly about this size right here, maybe a little bit bigger. So the stairwell went down this way, and it was an empty stairwell from underneath of it was empty. So I did a quick circular motion as I entered the room. I did the Pike County circulation. I cleared everything, and I came right back up the steps.
Okay. When you guys came out of that area, where'd you go next?
We entered this room right here, which is Dana's room. And as we entered this room, this door, I believe, was still shut. Because it was not open when we came through, like our initial thing, our initial approach to that. So when we came in here, I went this way and cleared, this is the master bedroom, or bathroom, I apologize. I cleared this, and we came over, and that's where we found it.
Okay. And when you observed her in that bed, again, was she covered, or was she predominantly covered with? Okay. And, okay. And at some point, were you able to at least look and take a look at her condition from the angle that you're at? Okay. Okay. After you were able to view her, again, where did you move from there?
At that point, I came around, I checked under the bed, and we came back around here. We knew now the whole house was secure. We had other deputies come in, and I exited the house at that point when we were going to set up a tape line. We knew everything was secure in this house now. At that point, I was called down the street to another house.
Okay. So you assisted and helped set up the tape line. Let me ask you this. When you were in that property that day, do you remember what kind of footwear you had, or what kind of...
I've had the same boots forever. They're my lucky boots. So they're Oakley, military style Oakley issued boots.
Okay. At some point, you said you were called to go down and assist at another scene?
Yes, sir.
And was that after you got the perimeter?
Yes,
tape
sir.
off?
Everything was set and secured there.
So, where did you go from there?
Went down to the Red Barn.
Go ahead.
Just went down the road just a little ways to where everyone else was at, with the Red Barn. And
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes. It states exhibit B332. And now, again, when you left that initial scene that you cleared, did you go down the road a little bit and see a large law enforcement presence at these other two trails?
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Okay. So when you get down there, where do you go and what do you do?
I went up to this house where this house here where the babies were at, where the 2 toddlers were at. Then, when I approached that house, I talked to another deputy who was there. I peeked in, looked around the house just a little bit. Remember, we were setting up the security area then, so I didn't really enter the whole house at that time. I seen the TV was on. I'm trying to think of the rest of it. It was so fast, so I apologize.
So when you got down there to that scene that's depicted in that picture, were there still civilians on site down there?
Yes and no.
Okay.
What I mean by that, I apologize for saying it that way. Let me correct myself. There was people, we had them pushed back to like the road area where no one could touch anything.
Okay.
So we had a secure area set up.
And you said you saw a couple toddlers or babies.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you interact with those folks at all?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. Tell us about that. I talked to, well, the youngest one is named Rhoden. He had some blood on him. And when we started wiping him up, I was kind of playing with him a little bit, just to interact with him, I don't know, I can't even explain it. I wish I could explain it in more detail. He's a toddler.
And at some point, was he, well, what'd you wipe him up with a little bit? Or help him?
I always carry a baby wipes in my cruiser, just like carry wipes. You know, if you go into these houses, you get sticky, you get dirty, and you just want to wipe your hands down afterwards. Or if you get dirty, it's in the car. So I had hand wipes, I had baby wipes in my car.
Yeah.
So I retrieved them, and we started wiping them down.
Okay. And at some point, was he removed from the scene, or did he leave you? And did you help hold security at the front of that house?
Yes.
Okay, and what area of the house were you at there?
I just on the porch. I never really, like I said, I just peeked in and started with the shit.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit B6. The B6 that you have there in front of you, the same image that's up on the screen.
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, can you tell us what is depicted there in State's Exhibit B6?
Is the house. Once again, without me knowing the exact diagram of the house, I know the living room was right through the front door there and the TV was on.
Okay. And while you were on the front porch there, could you see in through the open door?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit B68. And again, can you tell us what we're looking at there?
That's the front door of the house, sir.
And in that picture, as you look in, can you see what roughly where the TV is?
Yeah, it's straight across. It's hard to see in this picture because of the darkness on the TV, but if it was lighter, the jury would be able to see right across from probably you, sir, the television, from where I was standing.
I'll show you what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit B81. State's Exhibit B81 that you have in your hand is that same image on the screen?
Yes, sir.
And when you talk about looking in or peeking in that residence and seeing a TV, is that what you saw?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you peeked into that scene. Did you actually go into or enter that scene?
I stepped in like this and just looked around. I could see around the corner a little bit there. And I just backed out at that point because I didn't want to be involved with that scene. I had to be.
Okay. At some point, were you pulled from that scene and sent down the road to block traffic?
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay, and can you tell us where you went?
Down the road about, I'm going to guesstimate, quarter to half a mile-ish. There was an intersection right there. I stopped news vans. I stopped some of the family members who were trying to come down the road, and I just redirecting them out.
Other than your actions on this day, did you have any further involvement in the investigation in this case?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Other than this day, I did not after that. I participated later on when we had a tip with I believe it was Jackson County.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
You're through questioning him? Are you through questioning?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
The state may, or the defense may cross-examine.
We have just a moment, Judge.
Yeah.
You're fine, sir. You're fine.
Let me take a moment.
Take your time.
Just a couple questions, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
My name's John Parker. I'm one of the attorneys for Mr. Wagner.
Pleasure.
You identified this photo earlier. Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 233. Can you take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
You just identified that a moment ago.
Yes, sir.
Can you hold that up for the jury and describe what that is?
That's the room, this is the doorway leading into where the infant was at. That's-
Okay, could you maybe just stand up
Yes, sir.
and show it to the
Do you
jury
want to-
closer so they can all see?
Mr. Parker, we can project it right now.
Okay, if you could project that, that would be, thank you.
Sir.
Wait for it to come
Yeah,
over
you're fine, sir.
on the screen. Okay, the image that you have in your hand is also on the screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you did not take these pictures, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay, but this is the angle that you identified as being across from the bathroom, looking towards the room where where
Hannah.
Hannah May
Yes,
was
sir.
found along with the baby.
Yes, sir.
correct? And where would the person taking this photograph have been standing?
They would have been standing, it would have been in the hallway right by Dana's room. So because it was, this hallway, if you exited Hannah's room, you could go straight to Dana's room down this hallway. So they had to be standing somewhere. Once again, this probably looks like the doorway, and this is my opinion, I don't know this 100%. This looks like the doorway to Dana's room.
Okay, you're talking about the hinge
Yes, sir.
right here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're looking straight down this hallway and you see a child's bed.
Yes, sir.
There were no victims in that bed.
No, sir.
Do you know approximately how many feet from where that door hinge is to that bed?
Sir, I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's a,
Or how many steps per?
maybe from the bed to the doorway?
Well, say from the hinge,
Okay.
all right, to where the carpet begins. If you can
6 to 7, maybe? I mean,
6
just,
to
yeah.
7 steps?
Maybe that far, yeah. I'm not, once again, I didn't count my steps between point A and point B.
Understood, understood. But you're actually in this place?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions about that exhibit.
No problem, sir.
Now, are you telling us that you're the one that went into the basement and cleared it?
Yes, sir.
All right, did Deputy Ball, I believe it was, do that, or did you?
No, sir, it would be unsafe for both of us to do that at the same time.
Okay, did you both go down one at a time?
No, sir, I alone went in. He stood fast at the door because we still had not made entrance into Dana's room at that point. So we knew everything else was clear except for what was behind us, and he was facing that. I went down for simple fact, if there was someone in the basement, you don't have 2 more casualties.
Of course, you
So-
want to make sure it's,
Yes, sir.
thank you very much, sir.
No problem, sir. Not a problem.
Just a couple little follow-ups.
Yes, sir.
I think you stay seated.
Okay.
I've put up again what's been marked for identification purposes, State's Exhibit C-433. All right. State's Exhibit C-233 is still up on the overhead. Again, can you show us where that picture's taken from?
It appears to me by the picture, once again, sir, that whoever took this picture was standing roughly in this area right here, because you can see the door hinge. That's the only reason I'm saying that, because the door, I believe, would swing in this way, and that's the picture. You got a direct line of sight from the doorway to the bed.
And if you were standing in this area right here, the threshold between that addition area and that hallway,
Yeah.
again, would your line of sight or your angle into this room change?
Well, a little bit, yes, it would, because is the closer you approach the room, you're going to, as you walk down a hall, which everybody's done, as you approach an opening, larger opening than the bottleneck you're in, your line of sight's going to drift. It's going to be able to be seen more and more of the room as you get closer to the room.
And if you're standing in this area right here,
Mm-hmm.
all right, would you be vulnerable to an attack or assault coming from this area? Do you have line of sight into this bedroom?
No, I do not.
Okay. So, again, if you had not cleared this room, would it be incredibly dangerous for you to be right here without this area of the living room being secured?
Absolutely, yes.
No. Oh, wait, right here. All right, after you got done, you said you helped in assisting set up the perimeter. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, just tape.
Okay. And you helped rope that off?
Yeah.
And at some point, as you were doing that, you were helping to secure, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
At some point, you got called to go to another scene,
Yes,
correct?
sir.
And obviously, when you got called, did somebody replace you?
There was already deputies there at
Okay.
that time. You still had Chief Dickerson and Deputy Ball.
Okay. All right.
Any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
Does the defense have further cross?
Just one question, Judge. So what were the lighting conditions like when you were inside this house?
The windows are closed. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the exact lighting on it. You could see you could see vividly. The only place I needed light was in the basement. I mean, those were, it was 7:30 in the morning, 7:45 at this point. So the lights was fine. You could see perfectly. I mean, there was no distraction with my vision at all.
Thank you very much.
No problem, sir.
Before you sit down, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth as you shall answer unto God?
I do.
You will be seated there. What's your head on that? The state may examine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, how are you? Good. Can you please state your name for the record and spell your last name?
Miranda Cable, C-A-B-L-E.
And Ms. Cable, where are you currently employed?
Currently, I'm a nurse at Primary Care.
Okay, and where is primary care located?
It's in South Shore, Kentucky.
Okay, and how long have you been employed there?
About 7 months.
And can you tell us where you were employed prior to that?
Prior to that, I worked as a nurse at Southern Ohio Medical Center in the emergency department.
And where did you work prior to that?
I worked for Portsmouth Ambulance.
Okay. I guess I'm working backwards, but you progressed forwards in your life. You started out as an EMT, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us that progression, please.
I started out as a EMT in 2006. In 2009, I got my certification as an advanced EMT. And then in 2011, I got my certification as a paramedic. In 2020, I got my associate degree in nursing. And then in 2021, I finished my bachelor's of science in nursing.
Okay. What's next?
Not sure.
Okay, so back in 2016, where were you working?
What was that?
Back in 2016, where were you working?
I was working for Portsmouth Ambulance in the Pike County station.
Okay, and what was your title there?
I was a paramedic and I was also the station manager at that time.
Okay, and what does a station manager do or mean?
I would do the daily staffing, making sure that we had enough crews on, ordering, making sure we had supplies, things of that nature, just the daily things that needed to be done.
Okay. And do you recall what your shifts were during that time period?
At that time, I was doing 24-hour shifts, normally on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays.
Okay. And what time frame, what would the start time be? I guess the end time would be 24 hours later.
5 a.m. to 5 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 7.
Okay. And do you recall if you were working on April 22nd of 2016?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And can you tell us if you were ultimately dispatched to a location on Union Hill Road?
Yes.
Do you have any idea of approximately what time that was?
A little after 7 in the morning.
Okay. Do you have, let me ask you this. When you do a run, when you're dispatched to a location, do you complete what's called a run report?
Yes.
Ultimately, okay. And did you do that in this situation?
Yes.
Okay, and is that something you do as shortly thereafter as possible?
Yes.
To doing the run, and you do that every time?
Yes.
Is that correct? And it's something that you fill out by hand?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. If I were to provide you your run report from this day, would that refresh your recollection as to the exact time that
Yes.
you were dispatched? Okay. Handing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit R1. If you could just, first of all, look at that and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes.
And what do you recognize that as?
This was one of my run sheets.
Okay, one of your run sheets?
Yes.
Okay, from April 22nd of 2016?
Yes.
Okay, you said one of your run sheets. Is there an additional run sheet for that day?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get to that later. And does it say on there what time you were
Yes, it does.
dispatched? And what time was that?
8:13.
Okay. And does it also indicate approximately what time you arrived?
8:42.
Okay. And can you tell us what the call, when you were dispatched, what did you believe the call to be? Or what did you believe you were responding to?
We believe we were responding to a possible domestic violence. They said there may or may not be someone dead on scene, and that there may have been an assault.
Okay. And was it just, first of all, did you have a partner that day?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and is that typical for ambulances to have
Yes.
more than one person?
There's always 2.
Okay. And can you tell us who your partner was that day?
It was Jeff.
Okay, and Jeff,
He is my husband.
okay. So same last name?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall who was driving that day?
Jeff was driving.
Okay. And is there a reason for that?
He is a basic EMT and I am a paramedic. So normally if we were on any runs, he would drive and I would do patient care just because of the higher level.
Okay. And that would be, even if is that kind of the standard for any ambulance, or if you can try to have?
Yes, especially on emergencies or things like that, just to have the highest level provider in the back with the patient.
Okay. And how many units from your ambulance service were dispatched at that time?
When we were dispatched, there was 2 units,
Okay.
and then later a third
Okay.
was sent.
Do you typically have that many ambulances on staff at any given time?
At the time, yes, we would normally run 3 24-hour shifts.
Okay. And do you recall, you said there were 2 initially, were you one of the first ones that were dispatched?
Yes, my husband and I were the first truck, and then Justin and his partner were directly behind us.
Okay. And do you remember who was Justin's partner at that time?
Chuck Turner.
Okay, and you said Justin, his last name.
Waring.
And you said you were the first truck and they were the second truck. How close were you guys as far as when you traveled?
We could see them behind us.
Okay. And can you tell us, do you recall the location that you were dispatched to?
It was Union Hill Road.
Okay. And did you arrive at that location?
Yes.
And what did you see or say or do once you got there?
When we pulled up to the first residence, we pulled up and Justin pulled up right behind us. We both got out. At that point, they had said that there was more locations down the road. So Justin stayed there and we got back in the truck and continued down to the next residence. At that time, we were told by an officer that we weren't needed there, that there was deceased, but that they believed there was someone on down the road that was alive and needed help. So we continued down to a third residence. When we got there, Pike County had a truck on scene, and Daryl Hart, which is a paramedic with them, was coming out with a baby. I asked him if he needed anything, if he needed any help. He said no, everything was fine, and that he was going to be going to Adams County Hospital. So then we returned to that second residence and waited until we were told
Okay.
what else to do.
Okay. You gave us a lot there. But do you recall the path that you took that day to get to Union Hill Road?
Yes, we went 32 to 772 and then turned on to Union Hill Road.
Okay. And so that first location you came to was, which is where Justin Waring ended up staying. Is
Yes.
that correct? And you indicated, did you both get out of your vehicles at that time?
Yes.
Okay. And then he ended up staying there,
Yes.
and you went on to a second location. And do you recall where the second location was? Just
It was the very next trailer.
Okay. And do you remember if it was on the right hand or left hand
I
side of the road?
believe it was the right-hand side of the road.
Okay. And you indicated an officer said you were not needed, that there were individuals deceased, but your assistance was not needed there.
Yeah.
But that there was possibly some people alive on the road that
Yes.
needed help. Okay. And when you got there, I believe you said that Daryl Hart was coming out of the residence with a baby?
Yes.
Okay. And he indicated that he was going to go to Adams County Hospital
Yes.
with the baby? Was
Mhm.
that your understanding? Okay. And you indicated then you went back to this second residence. So is that second residence where the officer told you you weren't
Yeah.
needed because there were deceased individuals?
Yes.
Okay. You indicated that you and the Justin Waring and the truck that had Justin Waring and Chuck Turner in it were pretty much arrived at the same time.
Yes.
If Justin Waring's report indicates that he arrived at 8:32 and your report says you arrived at 8:42, can you explain that 10-minute difference?
I didn't chart my time until I actually got back and stopped, because we kind of went from one place to another to see where we were needed. And then when we finally stopped, I charted that time.
Okay, so it would have been when you had already gone to the second location, the third location, and back to the
Yes.
second location when you, okay,
Yes.
perfect. And then was there a time where you changed your location from that second residence?
Yes. After a while, we were all told to go and stage.
Okay. And do you recall who told you that, or where that order came from?
That came from Sheriff Reeder.
Okay. And you were asked to stage, do you recall where you staged?
There was a dead-end road. There was a little gravel road
Okay,
in the middle between the second and the third residence,
okay,
and we staged at the end of that road.
okay. And let me do the aerials first before we do that. If you can step down on the
Yes.
State's Exhibit E332, sorry, this number's a little. Do you recognize this location? Yes. Okay, what do you recognize that as? Okay, and is this the first residence that you came to? Yes. Okay, and which direction would you have been coming at that time?
We would have been coming from this side.
Okay, so again, this was the first residence that you got stopped at. And then where was the second residence?
It was on down the road on the right.
Okay, all right, and just the very next trailer that you come to on the right. Okay, I'm gonna show you, I should do this here too. If you don't mind stepping down, just to, again, show us what direction you came from. This way, okay? And then where was the second residence?
It was on down the road.
Okay. And pull that down. Okay. This. State's Exhibit A544. Do you recognize this? And would you recognize that as?
That was where we stopped the second place.
Okay. Where you were told that you weren't needed initially, but that you ended up coming back to until you were told to stage,
Yes.
right? Okay. Just gonna leave you down here. And just go ahead and show this part of the jury as well.
That was the second residence.
Okay. And when you pulled up there, do you remember, were you just out on the street or did you pull in anywhere?
No, we just stayed on the road.
Okay. Okay, and last one. C434. And do you recognize what this? Yes. And what do you recognize that as?
This was the residence that we went to.
Where Daryl Hart was coming out of the residence. And had you known Daryl Hart before?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Having you done here, just to reiterate.
This was the third residence.
Okay. And then, do you recall then how close you got?
They had their squad on the road, and they just pulled up behind them, and then they were coming through the yard to like,
Okay.
so we just barely got off the road.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And I meant to ask you when you, regarding R1, is that something that you filled out yourself?
Yes,
And that's in your handwriting?
yes.
And then also signed by yourself?
Mhm.
Okay. So you were staging between the second and third residences. Did you get asked to do anything else while you were there?
Yes, while we were staging, we were asked to go back to the first residence to transport a child.
Okay. And do you know that child's name?
Yes, it was Rhoden.
Okay. And do you know how old Rhoden was at that time?
6 months.
Okay. And so you returned,
Yes.
and what did you do when you got there?
When we got there, Children's Services was there
Okay.
with the child. We spoke with them briefly, checked him, got his vitals, put him in the ambulance, and took him on to Adams County as well.
Okay, and why did you choose Adams County?
They wanted him to go there because that's where the other child had been taken. That way they could keep everyone together, and so that hopefully it wouldn't be as confusing.
Okay. And do you recall approximately what time you got dispatched to take care of Rhoden?
A little after 11.
Okay. And the same question to you, if I showed you your run report, would that refresh your recollection as to an exact time? Okay. And actually, there are 2 pages that are stapled together. If you can look at the top page and tell me if you recognize that. State's Exhibit R2.
We were dispatched at 11:08.
Okay, 11:08 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And then does it indicate, well, approximately?
Actually, that was when we contacted. It didn't say when we were dispatched.
Okay, that's when you were contacted?
Yes, we
Okay.
had contact with Ruger.
Oh, that you had contact with
Yes.
Ruger? Okay. And does it indicate then when you left that residence and went to the hospital?
Yes, 11:13.
Okay, so 5 minutes later, basically. Okay. And do you recall the condition that you found Ruger in?
He had blood on his head, on his arms and legs, and various parts of his body. He didn't appear to have any visible injuries. He was looking around and age appropriate.
Okay. And obviously, this was some time after you had first arrived, because I believe you said it was like 8:13, or I
Yes.
don't remember the exact time now.
Yes.
But, so it had been a few hours
Yes.
since. Okay. And when you came upon him, did you have any knowledge as to whether or not anybody had tried to remove any of the blood or anything, to your knowledge?
No.
Okay. When you found him, did he in fact have some blood on him?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Just, Q1. I'm going to show now what's marked as State Exhibit Q1. It will show on your screen there.
Mhm.
And just ask you if you, and please don't switch these. Do you recognize that child there?
Yes.
And who do you recognize him as?
Ruger.
Okay, and that is the child or the infant that you took care of that morning on April 22nd of 2016?
Yes.
Okay. And Q2, please. Showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit Q2. Again, there appears to be blood on his legs and feet and head and face. Is that consistent with the condition you found him in?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us, when you were examining him, did you personally take care not to clean him up or anything
Yes.
at that time? Okay. And Q3? Again, is that consistent with the condition you found him in?
Yes.
And then Q4? Again, do you recall seeing him in that condition?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell us what the, can you tell us what the concern was, or were you aware of what any concern was as to why they wanted him transported to?
I was told that the social service workers were concerned that he was found laying between his parents, and with there being a shooting, there was concern for hearing or maybe a rupture of an eardrum due to a possible loud noise.
Q3. And just showing you what's been marked as Q3, and I apologize, that if you see on inside his ear, there appears to be a lot of blood.
Yes.
Okay. And so obviously, they would not know what the origination of that blood was.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. That's good, thank you. And then the second page of that exhibit R2, can you tell me what that is?
That is where we get our signatures. We would have the hospital sign that we arrived and that they were taking care of the patient. We would have someone sign, in this case where it was a minor, saying that we have permission to transport. But yeah, that's our signature page.
Okay, and then you keep a copy of that for your records?
Yes.
Okay. And again, is that something you do in your normal course of business?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't know that I asked you, but is R2, is that something, again, that you filled out in your handwriting
Yes.
and placed your signature on that?
Yes.
As your run report? Okay. And what did you do after you had delivered Rhoden to the Adams County Hospital?
After we left the hospital, we returned to service.
Okay. And do you know what time it was that you arrived, that you would have arrived at the hospital with Ruger?
11:43.
And then you said you returned to your station?
Yes.
Okay. And so did you go back into service or regular service at that time?
Did.
All right. So while you were out there at those locations on Union Hill Road, did you ever enter any of the residents at any time?
No, I did not.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
The defense may cross-examine.
We have no questions.
You may step down. Does council have anything else before we adjourn for the evening to resume tomorrow morning at 9?
Thank you.
Anything further from the state today before we
No,
adjourn
thank
for the
you, Your
day?
Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to adjourn for the day. You'll be going home. You'll be taking your badges with you. You'll be leaving your notepads on your chairs. And you know what else I'm going to say. You're not to discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. You're not to permit this case to be discussed with you or in your presence. You're not to form or express an opinion finally submitted to you for deliberation and verdict. You're to do no research at all. Any source whatsoever, as I would include the internet, Facebook, any social media sites, radio, television, newspapers, and you're not to have contact with any participants in the case. That would include, of course, parties, counsel, or witnesses. Do any of you have anything that you feel needs to be brought to the attention of the court? Hearing nothing, then we are adjourned until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Please assemble at the jury room to be brought up by court personnel.